People are stealing trash bags? Welcome to Optimicities, where I share things I've noticed while living abroad. So when I first moved to Belgium, I was surprised to find out that I had to buy special trash bags. In other words, you can't just put your trash in any generic trash bag, but you have to buy specific bags designated by the municipality. So the municipality has its own official trash bag that has to be purchased, and for reference, you can get 80 large generic trash bags for under $20 in the US. But these special Belgian trash bags are not cheap, and they can range from €2.50 for a large bag to $1.25 for a small bag. So in other words, 80 of them would be €200. When I went into the grocery store looking for these bags, in the cleaning aisle near the brooms or sponges, I couldn't find these trash bags on the shelf. It turns out that because an entire roll of bags is actually pretty expensive, people were stealing them. So at least in the city I was living in, you could only get them by purchasing them at the cashier, kind of like if you wanted to buy cigarettes in the US. Now that was talking about the trash bags, but there are also these things called new blue bags. You can see here that the blue bags are only €1.5 for 10 bags, or 15 cents per bag. This is where you put recyclable items. In the US, plastics are sorted into 7 categories, out of which only 2 can be recycled, but in Belgium you can put 14 different types of plastics in these blue bags, as well as cans and cartons. These blue bags are 10 to 20 times cheaper than the trash bags, so the less waste you put in the generic waste bag, the less you'll pay in trash fees. As you can start to see, Belgium is essentially incentivizing people to recycle plastics and cans and produce less trash. To be more specific, I think this is what psychologists refer to as negative reinforcement, where you're kind of punished monetarily if you have more trash. They also have a positive reinforcement system in place for glass bottles. You can return the glass bottles at your nearest grocery store for cash back. Systems like this are also quite common in other European countries like Germany and the Netherlands, who also accept plastic bottles in addition to glass bottles. In the US, you can also get 5 cents back for cans and bottles, but you have to take it usually by driving to a recycling center that's probably a bit out of the way. But back to Belgium. You might be thinking, what if you put your trash out in a generic non-official bag? Well, you risk quite a hefty fine. This person was fined €400 for using the wrong trash bag. Personally, I've never been fined, but I did receive a warning letter once for putting my trash out before the designated collection time, which began at 5 p.m, so certain municipalities can be quite strict. And despite some inconsistencies in policies between the different cities in Belgium, it seems the system works decently well for the country as a whole. Belgium introduced the concept of the blue bag 20 years ago, and it's actually one of the top countries when it comes to recycling. With a new blue bag, which can now accept just about every type of plastic, they'll collect 8 additional kilograms of recyclables per household annually, and they only expect this to increase each year. Additionally, they found that an impressive 95% of the packaging is sorted correctly. What happens to the sorted trash? In 2020, 79% of packaging waste was recycled within Belgium. Belgium has facilities to recycle paper, cardboard, glass, and metals. The remaining plastic packaging waste gets sent to the neighboring countries of France, Germany, and the Netherlands that are better equipped to recycle plastic. But it's still impressive that all Belgian household waste remains within the EU. Since 2020, Belgium has added its own plastic recycling plants as well, and they predict that by 2023 they'll be able to recycle over 50% of plastic waste in country. The new plastic plants will recycle plastics into secondary raw materials to be used for new bottles and trays. Belgium is investing into their circular economy with recycling and creating new stable jobs along the way. To me, the most interesting part about this is not that Belgium's able to get its citizens to participate in recycling, although this is impressive, but it's the fact that they're making a large effort to recycle their trash within Belgium to enhance their circular packaging economy. I had the opportunity to visit a recycling plant in California a few years ago, and I have to say that it was a bit disheartening. While it was cool to see how the items were sorted and bundled, I learned that the pallets of cardboard, aluminum cans, and plastic were then just shipped to China. Essentially, the US sells its recyclables to China, and in recent years, it's no secret that China just doesn't want their trash anymore. So what happens to the so-called recyclables? Well, some of it gets sent to other countries like Thailand, India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. But these countries are also becoming overwhelmed. So more and more plastics are ending up in the landfill, entirely defeating the purpose of recycling. Apparently, less than 5% of plastic waste in America was recycled in 2021, and plastic recycling has actually been decreasing every year. And it's pretty clear that the US can't go on like this. Now, I use the example of Belgium because I lived there, but of course there are other countries that do extremely well in this area too. South Korea has one of the highest recycling rates in the world, with impressive sorting facilities and recycling bins throughout Seoul. But they also ship their plastics to China, meaning that they too will need to find alternate solutions in the coming years. Having visited Japan, I noticed that they also sort waste quite diligently. I once stayed in an Airbnb that had super strict trash sorting rules, so I was wondering why they weren't at the top of the list, as some sources even claim that 84% of plastics in Japan are recycled. But upon further digging, this 84% includes plastics that are shipped to China as well as incinerated with energy recovery. This is something Singapore does as well. It's called waste-to-energy incineration, and it's a legitimate waste management strategy with its own pros and cons. It's certainly better than incineration without recovery or just plain disposal in landfills. And honestly, with the current political climate and energy shortage, this method might gain some popularity. However, I personally don't consider it to be actual recycling where the materials are reused. So even better than incineration with recovery, some countries are focusing on prevention, reusing, and recycling. And in this sense, I think we should focus back on Europe. They're definitely onto something with their circular economy goals. Particularly, let's look at Belgium's neighboring country, Germany, one of the leaders in waste management and recycling. Germany recycles nearly 70% of all waste produced, and people sort their trash into 5 bins by trash, organic waste, paper, plastic, and glass. Like Belgium, they also have a good bottle deposit system, and incorrect disposal or incorrect recycling can lead to a fine between 10 and 1,500 euros. However, Germany's green dot fee is likely a large force behind the country's top marks in recycling. The green dot policy means that all recyclable packaging is labeled, and companies and manufacturers have to pay a fee when more packaging is used. This discourages excess packaging from even entering the hands of consumers and has led to thinner glass, paper, and metal. They're taking steps toward a circular economy as well by avoiding packaging when at all possible. So in summary, there are 2 major components of recycling. First is getting citizens to participate in sorting their trash, and I think these countries do a pretty good job at this. The second part of the equation, however, is what to do with the plastics, metals, and glass once they're sorted. And I think this is where Asia is still lacking due to historical dependence on China to do most of the actual recycling of materials. European countries are doing better by focusing on a more circular economy, which aims to reduce waste from the start, reuse as much as possible, and perform high-quality recycling. Circular economies are an important concept in general, and it doesn't just refer to consumer trash like plastics and cardboard. I think I'll do another video entirely on how cool circular economies are, but in the meantime, what do you think about waste management and recycling in your country?